It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre, fired up and ready to go for what is the final week of the 2016 FCS regular season. 6 of the 7 NEC teams are in action in Week 12. Let's take a look at the slate with our opening drive. We start the drive with the lone team not competing this week. Robert Marr's Colonials have a Week 12 open date. They finished their season last week against Wagner. Speaking of Wagner, the Seahawks are home to host the first-place St. Francis Red Flash. St. Francis, which clinched the title and the NEC's automatic bid to the FCS playoffs with last week's win over Central Connecticut, they're looking to become the first undefeated NEC champion since 2008. The Flash are 5-0 heading into the finale at Wagner. It'll be a matchup of 2 similar teams. Wagner ranks second in the NEC in scoring defense and second in turnover margin. First in both of those statistical categories, St. Francis. NEC Front Row will carry the game live. SFU on Grimes Hill to face Wagner, 12 noon. The second Front Row matchup features Duquesne visiting Central Connecticut State. The focus in this one will likely be on the 2 signal callers. Duquesne's Dylan Beekle became the first 10,000-yard passer in Northeast Conference history during last week's victory over Sacred Heart. Beekle has thrown 20 touchdown passes and been intercepted only 10 times this year, but the Duquesne Duke ranks second on the NEC passing leaderboard in terms of yardage. Number 1 is Central Connecticut's Jacob Dogala. The sophomore starter has come on strong of late with a few 300-yard performances in recent weeks. Dogala, who is completing over 60% of his pass attempts, has an 82-yard lead over Beekle for the NEC passing title. Log on to Front Row, 12 noon on Saturday, to find out which quarterback and which team comes out on top, Duquesne at Central Connecticut. And now for our featured matchup on ESPN3, it's Sacred Heart playing host to the Bryant Bulldogs. There's been a nice, healthy rivalry between these two sides in recent years. In fact, the last time these two teams met at Campus Field, it was November 2014. They were playing for the NEC's automatic bid to the playoffs. Sacred Heart pulled out a hard-fought 14-7 victory, sealing its second consecutive title at the time. Much like the Duquesne Central Connecticut game we mentioned earlier, there will be a heavy focus on the 2 quarterbacks in the Sacred Heart Bryant matchup, 2 of the NEC's all-time greats. RJ Noel is the all-time leader in total offense. He's been responsible for 103 touchdowns during his 4-year career as Sacred Heart starter. Meanwhile, Dalton Easton is in his 3rd season under center for the Bulldogs. He ranks amongst the top 10 NEC all-time leaders in yardage and touchdown passes. 24 TD passes this season leads the Northeast Conference. Noel, Easton, Pioneers, Bulldogs, it has the makings of a good one. Saturday, Fairfield, Connecticut, 12 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. Paul Dottino, Kevin Gilbride, and John Schmelk on the call for one final time this season. And after a nice, crisp opening drive, let's take a minute to check the NEC stock market. Let's see which player is on the way up. And all the talk about quarterbacks during the opening drive, Dylan Beekle, Jacob Dogala, RJ Noel, Dalton Easton, all of the records that have been surpassed this season, we'd be remiss not to mention St. Francis quarterback Zach Dreyer, the senior signal caller in his third year as St. Francis's starter. His stats aren't necessarily gaudy. He doesn't throw for the sexy yardage totals, but what he's done is find a way to win ball games for the Red Flash. 5 wins as a sophomore, 6 wins as a junior, and now a program record 7 wins as a senior. The gutsy 6'4" Dreyer was responsible for all 4 of St. Francis's touchdowns in the Week 11 title-clinching win over Central Connecticut. And there is a statistical category where Dreyer leads the NEC. It's passer efficiency rating, 140.3. A key factor in that, Dreyer has 18 touchdown passes to only 7 interceptions, 6 rushing touchdowns, only 1 fumble lost, 8 turnovers, 24 touchdowns, efficiency, wins, and now an NEC championship. SFU senior quarterback Zach Dreyer's stock is on the rise. It's a perfect time for a Twitter timeout. So let's go to the tweet deck, and we take a look at this one from the Stats FCS account, Stats Inc., of course, one of the national leaders in FCS coverage. The organization is responsible for giving out the Walter Payton Award every year to the top offensive player in FCS. And St. Francis's Cameron Lewis, the sophomore receiver, is in the mix. Lewis was added to the prestigious Walter Payton Award watch list this past week. That happened exactly 1 week after Stats added Duquesne quarterback Dylan Beekle into the candidacy pool. Beekle has thrown for at least 295 yards in 4 games this year. He set the NEC single-game season high for yards, 394, and passing touchdowns, 6, in the Duke's big win at Jacksonville. But now, back to Cameron Lewis, the sophomore wide receiver, 1,227 yards. That's second overall in FCS to Eastern Washington's Cooper Kupp. The 6'4" physical receiver is averaging 18.9 yards per catch. That leads the FCS with receivers who have made at least 60 receptions this season. So an appropriate Twitter timeout shout-out to St. Francis's Cameron Lewis in the running for the Walter Payton Award.
Somerset, it's an NEC Audible.
Let's take a quick listen to Sacred Heart head coach Mark Nofri. He outlines what his Pioneers must do to be successful against Bryant this Saturday in our featured ESPN3 matchup.
The quarterback, Dalton's having a great year. You know, he's probably his best year in 4 years. He's thrown the ball all over the place, and he's complete high percentage completions. And you got to shut him down, so it means we're going to have to pressure him other than make him feel uncomfortable in that pocket. And offensively, we got to go back to running the ball. You know, we need to get OC and Nate going, and you know, you add Kroom and Meacham in there. We got 4 backs, and for us to be successful, we have to run the ball. And those are the keys for us.
You heard Nofri talk about Dalton Easton. He leads the NEC in touchdown passes this year with 24. And then, of course, Nofri wants to see the Sacred Heart rushing attack kick it back into high gear. The Pioneers averaged more than 250 rush yards per game during the non-conference schedule. They went 5-0. In conference play, however, they're averaging just over 150 rush yards per outing. Bringing that average back up to over 200 would certainly serve the Pioneers well against the Bulldogs. And dropping the knowledge on you in the DYK, did you know St. Francis had never had a winning season at the FCS level prior to 2015? The Red Flash elevated to FCS in 1992, but it wasn't until last year's 6-4 mark that they finished with an above 500 record. It speaks volumes to the work that Chris Valerio and his staff have done in building an NEC title winner out in Loretto. And it didn't happen overnight. You can trace the start back to 2012 when the Flash won 5 games. They won 5 more in 2013 and another 5 in 2014 before getting over the hump last season and then taking the step this year to the next level. Congratulations to Chris Valerio and the SFU Red Flash. The good times are rolling in Loretto, PA. And that'll do it. Week 12 of our show is in the books. So is the 2016 regular season here on the Whole 9 Yards. Thanks to all of our loyal viewers throughout the season. We hope you had fun because I certainly did. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games on Front Row and ESPN3. It's been a pleasure. I'm Ralph Ventre. This has been the Whole 9 Yards.